Thanks so much for your company. I am Pius Kojo Baka. Let's now settle for the details. And the Bank of Ghana has indicated that it was forced to keep the policy rate unchanged at 30% because of improving economic conditions and declining inflation rate. Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, disclosed this at a news conference in Accra today, where my colleague George Yafe has the rest of the story.
Addressing journalists here at the boardroom of the Central Bank, Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, argued that all the indicators that influence the policy rate are trending down, hence the decision to hold it at 30%.
All core inflation measures monitored by the Central Bank are trending downwards, indicating continued easing of underlying inflation pressures. In addition, 1 year ahead survey-based inflation expectations seem well anchored.
The governor of the Bank of Ghana was also optimistic that the inflation rate would end at the projected target of 29% by the end of this year.
We were looking at a 29%, projection for 2023, and we were a little bit concerned in the second quarter when inflation sort of got stuck around 42. But we think that with the drop that we have seen in the August numbers, we probably are going to get back to the path which should lead us close to the 29% that we had originally forecasted.
On the local currency or the city's outlook, the governor gave an indication that things remain fairly stable going into the last quarter of this year based on some of the monetary measures that they've taken, the IMF inflows and other fiscal measures being taken by government.
We think that the program is doing what it is supposed to do. Stabilize the economy, right? We are beginning to see growth improving. We are beginning to see inflation going down. If you look at the sizes of the drops since the end of December, we've seen substantial drops in both food and non-food inflation. We have seen the exchange rate stabilize. So these are all ingredients. These are all ingredients that would create the conditions for sustained growth. Now, when you have inflation coming down, when your exchange rate is staying stable, we expect real incomes to improve over time if we are able to sustain this kind of progress. And all of that should help, rebuild confidence. So we are very, very conscious of the reason for first, agreeing to do the program. The program is yielding the appropriate results. We are in the process of this first review. Indications are that we would come out of the review very successfully. This is the indications.
Well, based on the engagement here, the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana, as well as the Central Bank Governor, was optimistic that the economy is indeed on that path to stability. From the Central Bank headquarters here in Accra, this is George Yafe reporting for Joy Business.
Meanwhile, finance lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School, Dr. Benjamin Amoah, has indicated that the cost of credit will remain high going forward as the Bank of Ghana maintains the policy rate at 30%.
For now, if you look at the rates and the posture of the rates are relatively stable. July and September 30-30. So in terms of contracting loans, it is not going to be that different from what it was when the July pressure came out from the Monetary Policy Committee. What we need to understand here is that what is going to trigger changes in rates will now be on the risk premium of each borrower that goes to financial institutions to borrow. In other words, fundamentally, the signaling rate is the same. 30% July, 30% September. So the difference will now be on, like I said earlier, on how risky the borrower is and what the borrower wants to use the money for. But if you look at the big outlook, what we need to be worried about is how much will it cost those who source for funds from the savings and loans and the microfinance subsector of our financial services industry? For the banks, we all know that many of the banks will prefer not to do business with certain clientele group. So a large pool of the informal sector will now have to fall on the savings and loans and the microfinance. Trust me, monetary policy rate of 30% will not trickle down well with those who source of funds for savings and loans and microfinance. It is going to be very expensive for these individuals to contract from the savings and loans and the microfinance. So what we are saying here is that the rates look relatively stable for corporate borrowers and for high street bankers. But for a greater proportion of the informal sector, cost of credit is still high. And they are also going to pass on this cost of credit to retail customers and clients like us who buy from them in the informal sector. So the point is that rates are still high.
All right, so let's bring in the perspective of businesses on this latest development. Joining us via Zoom is the Chief Executive of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industries, Mark Bedu Abuaje, for more on that. Mark, pleasure you could join me on Business Live. Now, what does this hold in the rate mean to businesses like yourself?
Well, we will take it by now as a relatively good news, because looking at what is happening in the macroeconomic environment, we're actually expecting a dip in the policy rates. But we have seen a dip in the inflation rate by just 3%, looking at June, July, and August, and then also the stability in the foreign exchange markets. The least they could do, at least, is to maintain the policy rate at the 30%. But for us, it's still very high. The policy rate of 30%, as usual, will also translate into a high interest rate. If you look at the interbank weighted average rate, which is close to 27%, that is even among the banks, that is how much they are borrowing. It means that ordinary business person who walks into the bank or any of the financial institutions to get some money will be paying more. But we are hopeful that looking at the trend that is we are experiencing now, in the subsequent monetary policy committee meetings, we expect the policy rate to
Looking at the justification given by the governor, Dr. Ernest Addison, gives an indication that we are likely to see more monetary tightening going forward, which means either ways we will see the policy rate being increased or better still maintained. How are you positioning yourself to such news?
I think his last statement, if you look at the document, is very disturbing, which means that there's a high possibility of the policy rate going up. And of course, as earlier stated, the policy rate depends on certain variables, inflation, exchange rate, and the rest. So if you are to experience an increase in inflation, then possibly there's going to be an increase in the policy rate. But looking at what we are experiencing now, looking at the fact that both the food inflation and non-food inflation are all trending downwards, imported inflation is also trending downwards, we are hoping that inflation will continue to trend downwards. And if that happens, then of course we don't expect the policy rate to go up. Of course, the basic reason why they are increasing the policy rate is to contain inflation. If inflation is coming down, there will not be any reason for the central bank to increase it.
And Mark, how are you going to survive and operate despite this hold up?
Yeah, we've been surviving and operating since November 2022 up to now. We've had over 1,300 basis increase in policy rate, about 13% increase in policy rate. And of course, which means the interest rates have also been increased substantially from November last year to this year. What we are experiencing is a lot of these businesses who have the potential to expand are largely not borrowing because of the high interest rate. So if it keeps on at this level of increase, then likely we are going to have businesses not expanding. What businesses are doing, as I keep on saying, the survival strategy to ensure that we get to a level where interest rate will come down, inflation will come down, there will be much stability in the foreign exchange market. And then businesses will now have the confidence to borrow and also expand. So for now, things are still hard, my brother. I mean, businesses are still suffering. Nothing really has changed. since beginning of the year up to this level. I mean, just the inflation that we are talking about 3%, is not substantial enough to cause a reduction in the cost of production. Mind you, we have seen electricity and water tariffs also going up in recent times, which all fit into the cost of production. So we haven't really seen significant improvement in the cost of doing business. That is what we are looking for. So as our hope still is that by the end of the year, policy rate will come down. We don't also expect that the utility tariffs and depreciation and other things will come into further cause an increase in the cost of production. I mean, if cost of production is high, the obvious reason is that a substantial part of that will be transferred to consumers, and you and I are going to suffer. So we are not hoping for anything that will further worsen the plight of Ghanaians.
All right. Thank you very much, Mark Bidwa-Boaji, for your time here on Business Live. He's the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, speaking to us on the back of the hold in the policy rate there. And while longer within the banking space, an ARB Apex Bank is keen on growing financial inclusion in the country through the introduction of agency banking to some community and rural banks. The move is expected to support rural folks with some form of financial services in their areas. Speaking to Joy Business at the bank's annual general meeting in the Eastern Region, Managing Director of the bank, Alex Kwesi Iwua, disclosed that all is set for the rollout of the initiative. Here's more.
The aim of introducing agency banking is born out of many frustrations market women and rural traders go through in accessing financial services. As part of the vision of the ARB Apex Bank, which is the mother bank for the community and rural banks, the moment has come for rural traders to get the opportunity to be included in the financial drive. Managing Director of the bank, Alex Kwesi Iwua, told Joy Business the procurement has been done for the bank to begin the initiative. He made this disclosure after addressing shareholders at the bank's annual general meeting in Kwewu.
We had to, upgrade the core banking application that we run, and so we call it the T24. We had to upgrade it, and we did it only last year, November, and that was to prepare us to do the implementation of the digital banking platforms, which is the mobile banking, the agency banking, and the internet banking project. And implementation has been going on so well, and we expect that by next week, all the preparatory things that we have to do, training of the rural banks will begin, and we expect that by the end of this year, the platform will be live.
Commenting on the 2022 financial report of the bank, Board Chairman Dr. Tony Obing disclosed that the bank recorded a significant growth in the year despite some challenges with the economy and participation in the domestic debt exchange program.
Negative 4 million Ghana cedis to positive 10.4 million Ghana cedis. Unfortunately, the DDEP sort of wiped away the profit. So from that point, we made a technical loss of 103 million Ghana cedis. That's quite unfortunate. But I would put this to the appropriate strategies that we have taken. The bank resolved to up our capital contribution. So people started buying shares. We're trying to raise about 25 million cedis in additional shares, and people have started paying. So these share receipts, were also invested in a way to earn some profit.
The bank recorded 113 million cedis impairment due to its restructured bonds under the domestic debt exchange program.
You're still watching Business Live here on the Joy News channel. More after this break. Hello, welcome back. Total mobile money transactions in the first 8 months hit a record 1.19 trillion cedis. This is according to the September 2023 summary of economic and financial data from the Bank of Ghana. Here's more.
This is compared with 655.97 billion cedis recorded during the same period in 2022. According to the figures from the central bank, the month of July 2023 recorded the biggest mobile money transaction of 169.6 billion cedis. From the figures, month-on-month mobile money transactions have been exceeding 130 billion cedis. This presupposes that government should be able to meet the electronic transfer levy target for this year. On January 11 this year, government reduced the rate on electronic transactions from 1.5% to 1%. Despite the growth in mobile money transactions, revenue has been well below the government expectations. Meanwhile, total value of mobile money interoperability for the first 6 months was estimated at 22.795 billion cedis.
Interest rates surged for the 5th month running, despite government recording 25.7% oversubscription of T-bill sales. Now, according to data from the Bank of Ghana, total bids tendered for the short-term securities were estimated at about 3.25 billion cedis. Here's more.
The government, however, accepted about 3.09 billion cedis of the total bids. According to the figures from the central bank, 2.143 billion cedis of the bids came from the 91-day bill, but the government accepted 2.114 billion cedis. For the 182-day bill, the bids tendered were estimated at 674.64 million cedis. However, the government accepted about 548.72 million cedis. All the 433.28 million cedis offered for the 364-day bill were accepted by the government. Meanwhile, interest rates on the 364-day bill shot up by 0.33% to 32.50%. The 91-day bill also went up to 28.50% from the 28.12% the previous week. VAT of the 182-day bill also rose 30.67% from 29.93% previously.
Now, Ghana will generate about $6.6 billion annually from lithium mining. This is when an Australian mining company, Atlantic Lithium Limited, starts production in 2026, which will create between 1,000 to 2,000 jobs in the central region. Speaking on the sidelines of the West African Mining Conference, its Chief Executive Officer, Keith Muller, expressed optimism about receiving a permit and obtaining a mining license by the end of September.
Lithium, a soft silvery white alkaline metal, has become a critical element in today's world, particularly due to advancements in vehicle manufacturing. This lightweight and highly conductive metal is in high demand, primarily for its use in electric vehicles. One of the first lithium mining companies established in Ghana, Atlantic Lithium Limited, says Ghana will soon make a mark in the electric vehicle market. Here is its Chief Executive Officer, Keith Muller.
I've been very surprised by the level of engagement that we've had from the Minerals Commission. I think the CEO has done a sterling job to bring the mining companies in and to really assist us in the permitting process. They've been helping us from step one and guiding us all the way through. We've never been this close to getting our mining license. We're very excited and we still believe that will happen in the next couple of weeks, if not by the end of this month. The company will generate in excess of $6.6 billion over the life of mine. More than half of that will go to the benefit of Ghana in the forms of taxes, royalties, free carry interest, company salaries, contracts to the local community.
The Australian government and its partners organized the West African Mining Conference. According to the Australian High Commissioner to Ghana, Berenice Owen-Jones, the conference sought to encourage mining companies to operate in a safe environment as well as address increasing jihadist violence.
So we have brought together today a range of security experts, security analysts, the mining companies, of course, government and diplomats from around the region to analyze the security situation in the sub-region and also to look at how we can mitigate that risk, how we can have our mining companies operate in a more secure and stable environment. I mentioned it's the third edition of the West Africa Mining Security Conference. And unfortunately, every year we notice that the security outlook has become more complicated. So this reinforces the point that it's a very, very timely conference at this stage.
Security analyst Adib Sani made an appeal for intensified efforts in ensuring security in the mining sector.
Even though we benefit economically, financially from the mining sector, there are a lot of security challenges within that sector that needs to be addressed. Also, we have issues with the possibility of explosives meant for the mining sector diverted to other sources, because it goes without saying that Ghana continues to be a major logistics hub for terrorists, and on several occasions vehicles filled with explosive making materials that are suspected to be coming from the mining sector have been impounded in countries such as Burkina Faso and Mali, only for investigations to reveal that they had come from being diverted is very high, and hence the need for us to work towards mitigating the threat.
The West African Mining Conference was themed Operating in Challenging Environment.
As part of deepening partnership within the electronics industry, Electrolank Ghana Limited has gone into partnership with TCL to be a sole distributor of TCL products across the country, according to the Managing Director for Electrolank Ghana Limited. And the agreement will foster a fruitful relationship for both parties. He spoke to Joy Business at a grand opening of some TCL sales outlets.
According to Electroland, is part of the company's efforts in offering better products and services to meet their needs. No Saklawi said the company will continue to provide quality services.
The partnership between TCL and Electroland was based on distribution agreement. Previously, TCL was run and sold only in TCL shops. However, after our partnership, TCL is going to be available in all the channels. Henceforward, all the promotions will be run in EGL shops and in that channel, including hypermarket channels where Malcolm, CompuGhana, Palace and much more is joining, and in the traditional channel. So it's going to be in Electroland shops and authorized resellers.
Country manager for TCL Ghana, Stan Wu, said the company will expand its investment.
We are not new in this market. We have been in Ghana markets over 10 years ago, and we know Electroland Ghana Limited a long time ago, and we already start cooperation with Electroland Ghana Limited about Ivory Coast markets. Last year, our headquartered management team come to visit Ghana market and see how Electroland Ghana Limited achievements. Of course, EGL have the very strong sales channel network in Ghana markets. They come here this market almost 20 years.
And that's it for Business Live for today. I am Pius Kojo Baka. You can log on to myjoyonline.com/business for all the business stories you need to read about. Pleasure serving you to enjoy the rest of our programs. Bye.